The St. Louis Cardinals and the Milwaukee Brewers are set to clash in a 4-game set in Milwaukee. Is either of them really a threat for the Chicago Cubs in the NL Central? We'll talk about it today on this Locked On Cardinals, Locked On Brewers crossover.
You are Locked On MLB crossover, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Hey there, baseball fans. I'm JD Hafron, and I'm your host for Locked On Cardinals, Chuck Freimund, host of Locked On Brewers, here together, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, covering your team every day. We want to thank those of you who make Locked On Cardinals and Locked On Brewers your first listen each and every day. We're free and available wherever you get your podcasts, so please subscribe wherever you get those podcasts, and make sure you jump onto YouTube and find us both there as well. Today's episode being brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can get $200 in bonus bets, so win your first $5 bet wins. All right, Chuck, good to see you as always, my friend. How are things in your world so far this summer? Weather been okay for you? It's been a little rainy where I live.
Same here. The sun never shines in Wisconsin for some reason. We haven't started summer yet. But actually, yesterday was one of the few days where the roof was actually open at AmFam Field for a game. But, man, we're still waiting for summer to start here. We got cool temperatures and all that, and as we say in Wisconsin, it's not been a pool day yet.
Not been a pool day, which is weird because we're past the Memorial Weekend and everything. We're supposed to be swimming by now. I know you and I have both been golfing and stuff. You can tell by our luscious tans and everything. So we have been out in the sun a little bit. Do you prefer the roof open at the ballpark, or do you like it closed there?
Yesterday was like borderline because we live right by the lake here with the ballpark, Lake Michigan. But it depends. If it's a nice day or a nice night, I have no problem with the roof being open. But definitely it's great like in April if there's a snowstorm or if it's rainy.
Sure.
You know that, see, the AmFam Fields in the Wisconsin, Milwaukee is in the southeast corner of the state. So like people from up north in the old county stadium would drive hours to go to a game wondering if they're going to actually play the game because of cold or bad weather.
Yeah.
And now you're always assured of a game. So
Cardinals have been dealing with double headers all the time so far this. I think we had 5 of them already because of all the rain. Like everywhere we go, whether it's in St. Louis, which obviously we do not have a roof to put over our heads, but it doesn't matter. Like it's just constant rain everywhere we go.
Well, that's the thing is when you guys have rain, it's like we're going to get that next because you'll have rain, and like the next day we'll get that same rain here just to the north of you guys.
Gotcha. Well, maybe in the future, every ballpark should have a retractable roof of some sort, so we quit dealing with all these double headers and rainouts. But shouldn't have any issues in Milwaukee because you do have a roof. So if things get nasty, we'll be okay. Yeah. Cardinals come into the series having lost 4 in a row. Got swept by the very impressive Toronto Blue Jays lineup. I was very impressed with what they did in that series. The Cardinals finished 3-6 on their most recent homestand, which is weird because at home they've been a much better team. Not the greatest spot for a team that until the last 4 games was pretty happy with the way the season was going. They lost 2 of 3 against the Rangers in Texas. Royals then came to St. Louis, took 2 out of 3, but then the Cardinals beat the Dodgers 2 out of 3. So you're like, oh, okay, we'll be all right. And then the Blue Jays kind of humbled them a little bit. Although Monday and Tuesday's games, they were one-run ball games. But the bullpen cracked in both of those. They became losses. Then Wednesday, jump out to a 2-0 lead, only to see the offense just vanish. And the Blue Jays pound out 10 more hits, score 5 runs, and get the sweep. What's been going on with the Brewers so far? What are you guys coming out of?
Well, just got beat 2 of 3 at home by the Atlanta Braves. Padres on this homestand, it's a 10-game homestand, and the Brewers are hoping to make some hay here. Padres came in and took 2 or 3 over the weekend, and now the Braves have just took 2 or 3. Offense has just been the story with the Brewers. Sometimes they're just so dreadful offensively. But looking forward to facing a divisional opponent tonight. They faced a lot of teams recently from the American League too, as well, and it's just been offensively. It's been all year long inconsistent, mostly bad offense that we're seeing from these guys. But hoping to maybe take 3 or 4 from you guys this weekend. The Brewers have been, I feel, like 5.5 games behind the Cubs for the past like month, it seems. That's what
and that's my next question for you is with the Cubs playing as well as they have, although they, they go to Philadelphia, and that's the thing is the Phillies are this excellent team, and then they just like bottom out for 10 days where they lost 9 of 10. Bryce Harper's hurt, but then they just took 2 or 3 from the Cubs in Philadelphia. So, but realistically, do you feel like the Brewers have enough, like right now? And I know the trade deadline's coming up in a month and a half. Things might happen, but do you feel like the Brewers are still in contention? Do you feel like they have enough to actually catch the Cubs at some point?
JD, the other day on my podcast, I've been saying maybe it's time to focus in on the wild card. Because I feel like the Cubs they seemed at one point that they were going to go on a big surge. It hasn't happened. I mean, they're playing about 500 baseball here in the last 10, 15 games.
Yeah.
They need to get beat by the Phillies. They won 2 nights ago, coming from behind and winning. So the Brewers are still within range. I'm not totally giving up on the division. Maybe the Cubs are going to go all Cubs and fold this thing a little bit. Although I keep thinking you guys are going to do the same thing. Like you mentioned, you're on a little bit of a skid right now against the Blue Jays. But I think it's still within range for both teams, both us and I think the Reds too. I think the Reds they're playing some good ball. Got beat yesterday, but I think they're still within range as well. But do you feel like anytime, like I felt this way with the Brewers, anytime they went on a little bit of a slide, it was like, oh, is the bottom dropping out? With your team now, having lost these 3 games against the Jays at home, it was at home, right? Yeah.
Yes,
it was at home. Yeah, that's right, because you guys came back and lost 10-9 the other night with that big rally in the late. I thought you were going to come back and win that game. Do you ever get that sense that, oh boy, here we go? Because not a lot of expectations from the Cards, and you guys are exceeding them this year.
Yeah, it feels like coming back to earth a little bit, more so with the pitching staff. That's who I'm more worried about because of the type of staff they are, where they are a pitch to contact type of team. And, eventually when that happens, the guys are going to find holes. If you go up against some good lineups, which, the Dodgers, the Blue Jays, obviously very good. The Royals have not been as good, but they were able to find some holes too. Eventually those balls are going to find grass, and that's kind of been the issue with them recently. So can they slow things down? Because there's been guys like Michaelis who have pitched much better than most people thought were going to. We didn't know what we were going to get from Matthew Liberatore, who has come back down to earth a little bit the last couple of starts. So there has been 2 really good guys, which has been Fetty and Sonny Gray. They've been pretty solid. Sonny Gray's been excellent lately. So it's hard to trust them because I'm not sure if it's sustainable to be playing as well as they have on all factions of the game itself. Defensively they've been very good. Offensively they've been incredible. But the pitching staff starting to show its cracks a little bit. So a little nervous about whether or not they can actually stick around with the Cubs in this one. And then you mentioned the wild card, where that means you got to deal with all the teams in the NL East and the NL West as well. The West has been so good. The NL East, obviously, you're dealing with the Mets and the Phillies, both trying to. If one of them whoever doesn't win the division, that other one's probably going to be a wild card team. So it's going to be very, very difficult for our teams if we don't win the NL Central. That wild card is going to be just as difficult, I think. Moving forward. I do want to talk about our teams and how they've been trending. Okay. I want to get into what's been going right, what's been going wrong for them, who are some names that have been hot, who's been not. So we're going to get to all of that in this crossover of Locked On Cardinals and Locked On Brewers. The NBA Finals are in full swing, and every night delivers highlight-worthy performances, major momentum shifts, and can't-miss moments. Whether it's a game-winning shot or a breakout player, there's never been a better time to get in on the action, and FanDuel makes it easy to stay in the game before tip-off and when the games are going on live. With player props, performance trends, you got the same-game parlays, which are great. Fans have more ways than ever to play smart and win big. And if you're if you're paying attention to these games and you got to read on a certain player that's starting to heat up here in the finals, why not back it up with the same game parlay? It makes a whole lot of sense. Obviously, there's the big guys, Shea Gilgeous-Alexander, you got Tyrese Halliburton, obvious choices, but it's the backup guys, the bench guys where you can really score. You're talking about Pascal Siakam or last night's big bench player, Benedict Mathurin for Indiana. OKC side, you got Jalen Williams, you got Chet Holmgren. There's just a lot of really good players to think about. And if you think or feel like one of them is primed for a good game, FanDuel is the place to be to take advantage of that hunch. If you're new to FanDuel, it's the perfect time to sign up. Head to FanDuel.com, place your first $5 bet. If it wins, you'll get $200 in bonus bets. Then you can take those bonus bets and use it on things that could even make your winnings even that much bigger. So make every moment more. Do it with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Thanks again for making Locked On Cardinals and Locked On Brewers your first listen every day. Leave your feedback on our YouTube page as well as on Twitter X anytime you want. It's always welcome and encouraged. All right, Chuck, similar records for both teams with the Cardinals and the Brewers. Same win total. We're right there, neck and neck. Cardinals are 5 back. The Brewers are 5.5 back of the Cubbies. And then you mentioned the Cincinnati Reds. They're 6.5 back. So things are pretty tight for that second place spot. What has been, you mentioned the offense, has that been the biggest storyline for the Brewers this year, just trying to find enough offense to get the wins?
Yeah, and that the Brewers didn't do enough to correct the problem that they knew going into the season was going to be an issue. Last year, they weren't. So many things went right for this team last year, and they were getting by very low offensive production. It's funny, going into this series, this homestand, the Brewers were 8th in the league in scoring runs. And people were saying, wow, they're scoring runs. No, they're not scoring runs because they'd score 17 in a game, and then they'll go for the next 4 and not score any. And right now they're going through a dreadful offense. So I'd advise anybody on FanDuel, maybe take the under on the Brewers because it seems like they're don't take my advice though. I'm not supposed to do that. But the Brewers are a problem. There's guys in this team. You look at batting averages, not very good. Christian Yelich, he's been out the last 2 games. He was hit with a pitch in Philadelphia a couple of weeks ago on a Friday. It's been giving us some problems now lately. So he's missed the last 2 games. So we'll see. We'll see if he's in the lineup on Thursday. And again, that wrist has been bothering him. We'll see if he's in the lineup later on today. But just offensively, that's been the issues. It's funny. I was talking to a Brewer analyst the other night. I said, Are the Brewers good enough to contend? Are they good enough or is the bottom eventually going to drop off? Because we're not an overly talented team. And the first word out of his mouth was, look at the Cardinals. And they're winning. And I said, yeah, the Cardinals are kind of like the Brewers were last year. He goes, exactly. They're overachieving. This might be the Cardinals' year for overachieving, because you guys we talked about this before the season, JD, about, this is going to be a rebuild year. Well, maybe not so fast. We're hoping you guys go all in. And when that trading market goes, that you guys are going to be buyers and, you give away some of your prospects.
I don't foresee that being a thing because this ownership is not interested in adding any sort of money at the moment. If you couldn't tell, with lack of free agency moves, only Phil Maton was signing this offseason. So I wouldn't see that as being something that they're going to do. If they were going to add anybody, it would be like the normal, let's get an old veteran on an expiring contract and see if he can inject any life into this team.
Available again.
Yeah, but it seems like the Cardinals are going to be more looking. They might be like Detroit was last year, where even if they're still in contention, not completely out of it, but close enough still that they still might trade and get rid of people, just thinking more about the future. Guys like Ryan Helsley and Eric Fetty. Those are names that might be of interest for people later on down the road as we get closer to that trade deadline. And they're still where they are with the Cubs right now, and they're 5 back. It's going to be a tough sell to hang on to those guys and then get nothing in the offseason if you're not going to pay them, right?
Oh, exactly. And I want to read you a number. I picked up on your guy Newt Bar the other day, who had a rough. And of course, I can't find it right now. But a buddy of mine sent me this, and I said I'm going to pass it along to my buddy JV.
Yeah.
Lars Nootbaar, 0 for 5, 4 strikeouts, leadoff spot against the Blue Jays. Nootbaar 0 for 14, 9 Ks in his last 3 games. He's batting 167, 29 strikeouts over his last 18 games. What's going on with Nudie?
I was going to bring him up too when we were talking about trends. The one guy that is really in trouble right now and is spiraling in the wrong direction has been Lars Nootbaar, which is a big deal because he's the leadoff guy. He's the catalyst. He's the guy that gets everything moving. You mentioned the 4 strikeouts he just had against the Blue Jays on Wednesday, 1 for his last 22 with 11 Ks. And just, this is the big stat, okay? If he's not getting hits, at least he's normally getting on base. Only 1 walk over that same time span, which is very weird for Newt. Like, he's normally one of those eagle eye kind of guys that he's an on base percentage guy, not high batting average, but he's the guy that's going to take walks. He would rather take 3 walks instead of getting 2 hits. Like, that's the kind of dude he's been. And he has not been that guy recently. And it's weird too, because it's like, you know, when a guy just kind of loses his mojo at the plate and then he's just not the same guy. He is swinging wildly at pitches. Like, it's all over the place. Like, he doesn't trust his instincts right now or his eye. And it's just been really bad. So he's a guy that's certainly looking to improve. There has been some good hitters as well, Chuck. You don't have to just bring up the one guy that sucks right now, you know. They've had some familiar names. You know that Nolan Arenado guy that everybody said was washed up, Chuck? He's actually been all right recently, hitting 381 with a home run, 4 RBIs in his last 6 games. I was looking at it because oddly, you know, because most people haven't really been talking about him. His defense has been through the roof awesome like it normally is. But the offense, like, very sneaky, has caught up with a lot of people. He's got 8 home runs on the year. He's now, I think 5th in RBIs for among third basemen in the league. So not a guy that you can just look past. Wilson Contreras has been real good. 318, 2 dingers and 7 ribbies over his last 6 games. Nolan Gorman, one of the young prospects of the Cardinals, were, you know, they were using that term runway this year. Like, hey, we want to see what this guy can do. Just because he has a couple bad weeks, we're not going to just send him down to Memphis and to AAA again. But he hasn't had as much playing time this year because not only have the Cardinals been winning, they've been facing a lot of left-handed pitchers, and the defense has been really good with Brendan Donovan at second base. Brendan Donovan, who's arguably been the team MVP this year, dealing with a toe issue, did not play on Wednesday, had an MRI done, and it's a pain thing right now. So Nolan Gorman's probably going to see more at bats, but he's hitting 385 with a home run and 3 RBIs in the amount of time he's been able to play recently. So he's been good. And then Ivan Herrera is a name that I'm sure I brought up to you at some point in the off season, because he was a guy I was really excited about, and he's had a heck of a season so far. Certainly a name to watch in the middle of the order for the Cardinals in this series. But yeah, getting Lars Nootbaar back to being what Newt normally does is something that the Cardinals will want. On your side of things, you need to keep him where he is, just buried and having no idea what he's doing at the plate.
Well, the problem is, I said this on Monday's podcast when the Braves came here. I hate playing a team or facing a guy when they're going through a slump. Because, you know, a player like that is going to turn it around. He's too good of a player to go.
Right. Eventually it will turn. Yeah.
And hopefully it's not till Monday when he gets out of town here. But like the Braves came here, lost 14 of 17. It was like, is it just a matter of time? Because that's too good of an offense to keep down.
Right.
And he came in and took 2 of 3. So, and you know, you guys are coming in here on a little bit of a skid right now. And I'm hoping that, you know, you don't right the ship here. You know, you mentioned Arenado. I think Arenado's got 2 game-winning home runs in the last 2 years against the Brewers.
I like to hear that.
He had one earlier in this year against the Brewers.
Yep, he sure did.
And this is the first time you guys are at AmFam Field. Here we are in mid-June, and first time the Cardinal fans are going to be here.
We haven't even played the Cubs yet, and it's June. We haven't even seen them.
That is.
So last year was the exact opposite. Last year we saw them all early and didn't play them at all, like in the second half of the season. Hardly. It was a very strange schedule, but yeah, I mean we're gonna get them soon. But obviously this is gonna be a big thing for our 2 teams because we're, as we mentioned in the beginning, we're neck and neck. You know, there could be either we split and nothing changes, or somebody's hopping in front of somebody and getting a little extra room here in this division. So coming up next, we are actually going to talk about the keys to victory for this season for both teams, because it seems like, at least in my opinion, it feels like this is a good matchup for both of our teams. Like you're seeing, and we'll explain it all to you. I don't want to give it away, but we'll explain it all to you coming up on this Locked On Cardinals, Locked On Brewers crossover. Have you ever decided that, last minute, Brewers, Cardinals, they're getting ready to play, and you know what? I got some time on my hands. Let's get to the ballpark. Let's go. Let's head to the ball game. You're bringing friends. You're bringing families. Maybe it's game day and you suddenly just realize, I just want to be there. It's a beautiful day in Milwaukee. They're going to open the roof. Let's go. That's exactly where Gametime comes in. It's the easiest way to grab your last-minute tickets, and you get to do it without the stress. The money you save on tickets, you can use that to go splurge on. Obviously, the bratwurst in Milwaukee is a big deal. Delicious stuff. So you got that. Drinks. I know the Brewers and the Milwaukee fans like their suds. Merchandise. You want to get maybe one of them foam fingers. What's your favorite merchandise at the ballpark, Chuck? What do they sell?
Well, I used to like the batting helmets, but they don't sell batting helmets. You remember the batting helmets?
Yes.
We don't sell the batting helmets anymore. But I would say my favorite merchandise is probably God. I just love the I love jerseys. I'm a jersey guy, and anytime they come out with a new jersey, I always love and of course they do that because of marketing, so we buy them.
Sure.
I love jerseys. I love jerseys. The first place when I go to the team store, I always look in the jersey department. Of course, I never buy them because they're like $300. They're about $150 more than any other store. But I'm a jersey guy, so I go look at the jerseys right away.
Yeah, maybe score you a Jackson Chourio jersey. He's one of my favorite players on the Brewers. And with this extra money you're saving due to using the Gametime app, you can make that possible. Gametime makes buying tickets fast and simple. Prices on the app go down the closer you get to first pitch, and they've got incredible last-minute deals. They've got clear seat views. It's a beautiful thing. So Gametime is the official ticketing partner of Locked On MLB, making it easy to browse the app for exciting upcoming MLB games, including the Brewers and the Cardinals. Plus, you get those seat views, as I mentioned, right in the app before you buy, so you know exactly where you're going to be sitting and what your view is going to look like. And with the Cardinals and the Brewers both neck and neck contending, you might have noticed that the ballparks are filling up a little more as we get into the summertime. So make sure you come on out and use the Gametime app and, get yourself some tickets so that you can be a part of the action going on this weekend in Milwaukee. Thank you again for making Locked On Cardinals and Locked On Brewers your first listen today. For your second listen, check out the all-new Locked On MLB Game Night. Every game, every night, all season long. Get local analysis on a national scale. You can find MLB Game Night on Locked On MLB on YouTube or wherever you listen to your podcast. Chuck Freimund from Locked On Brewers, JD Hafron from Locked On Cardinals. All right, let's start with your side of things, Chuck. What do the Brewers need to do to beat the Cardinals this time around after the Cardinals took 2 of 3 against them in St. Louis earlier this year?
Well, first of all, you got to get the offense going for Milwaukee. That is a big key. Jacob Misiorowski, their highly touted prospect, is pitching tonight. 22 years old, fireballer, fastball of 98, can get up to 103. Has got the most velocity of anybody in the country. Minor leagues, major leagues, you name it. He brings it, and we'll see how he is tonight. And I think they have to get off to a great start, and they're facing a tough one. As you mentioned, Sonny Gray's having a pretty good season. He's got the 7 wins. So I think tonight, Thursday night's game, is a real great tone setter for the series. So I got to get the offense going. Been saying that all year long. And there's some guys in this team that have been a little bit of a funk, and hopefully Yelich is back in the lineup, who was carrying the team a couple of weeks ago when Brewers had won 8 in a row. So I'm going to say get the offense going, and Misiorowski hopefully can give him at least 5 solid innings tonight. How about you guys coming in here on that little bit of a slide?
Well, it's mentioned you need to get the offense going. You couldn't pick a better pitching staff to do it against for the most part, because that's been the real problem for the Cardinals recently, is slowing down the other team's offense. The Blue Jays came in, and I always give you credit, and you heard me talking about this last year, that I loved how the Brewers approach at the plate, where they weren't chasing, they were putting the ball in play, and they were playing some small ball when they needed to. That's what the Blue Jays did. They get a home run here or there, but like, it was just constantly, they just don't strike out. And they just kept putting the ball in play, and it would eventually find holes. And that's something that's been happening to this Cardinals pitching staff most recently, because they don't have a lot of swing and miss. They're not going to get a lot of strikeouts normally outside of Sonny Gray. So how do you slow down the Brewers offense, which you're saying is actually a little bit slow right now? So that works out nicely for the Cardinals right now, that you guys aren't hitting quite as well. And also on the side for the Cardinals, their offense, they just need to start manufacturing more runs. I feel like there was a time where the Cardinals were doing all the little things right, where they were bunting people over, and they were, getting the sack flies, and they were doing smart base running. And just recently, it feels like it's gotten a little stale. Like, there hasn't been a lot of that creative offense. They've been kind of sitting back and relying on a big, double or home run. And that's been how they've been doing their damage recently, which is not what was helping them succeed early on in this season to be where they are right now. That's not the team that we had been watching this year. And, in this series against the Blue Jays, playing catch up a few times, and it took a number of different home runs to get them back into some games. But this is not a slugging team. That's not who they are. They're supposed to be hitting gaps, and they don't steal a lot of bases. But Victor Scott is a guy in center field that has really slowed down in the last month. So you haven't seen him running around the base paths quite as much. So he's a guy they need to get going. And obviously Lars Nootbaar at the top of the order. Just get on base. Like, if I'm him, don't even swing the bat, because it looks terrible. Like, stop. Make them throw strikes to you. Just stand there and watch the ball come in. Don't do anything, and see what happens for a couple of at bats, because he's swinging at everything all over the place. And it's just really, he's the table setter. And when he's broken, this offense is normally broken. So hopefully he starts to turn things around a little bit. But don't overlook the meat of this order with what they got with Contreras and Arenado and Ivan Herrera. There's some dangerous bats in there, Chuck.
Oh, absolutely. Without a doubt. And without question, one of the surprise teams, I think, in baseball this year, the Cardinals. There's no doubt. I think if you look at all the teams, I would say, the Cardinals in the thick of this thing, because you guys got off to a little bit of a slow start this season. I thought, oh boy,
April wasn't really that good.
no, but then you turned it around. You went on a little bit of a run there, and stumbled a couple times, but then got back on the horse and continued to win. Now we'll see how you guys bounce back here. The Brewers have been able to avoid long losing skids. And I think for both teams here, neither one of us needs to get swept in this series. And the Cubs this weekend are playing the Pirates. So we don't need the Cubs to get fat on them either.
No, I know they've done what they need to do so far this year. They've beaten the teams they're supposed to be beating. I think they're 500 against teams over 500, but they've been taking full advantage of some of those lesser teams so far this year. So they're probably loving the fact that we get to beat the snot out of each other for 4 games in Milwaukee, while they get a Pirates team. Although this Pirates team recently playing better. They've been winning. They swept the Phillies recently. So maybe let's not overlook the Bucks real quick. We kind of need their help, Chuck. We shouldn't be talking bad about them.
Well, no, because it's funny, because every time you want to talk bad about the Pirates, Brian Reynolds does something special, or a few of their other guys. They got some. I mean, like, Reynolds is like one of my favorite players.
Yeah,
non-Brewers players out there, because I feel like this guy is always coming up big. But let's hope the Pirates. I think the Pirates are going there at least win one game at Wrigley this weekend. At least win one. But who knows? Yeah, they're, like you said, that series against the Phillies. But the Pirates are spoilers, and we both got to play them again this year as well.
Yeah. Well, you've got Sonny Gray and the prospect Misiorowski tonight. You mentioned he throws super, super hard. Should I pick him up on fantasy? Is he gonna impress me tonight, you think?
I feel like when the Brewers bring up a guy making his major league debut, always seems that in their history have a dynamite first performance. And we're like, wow. And then, of course, everybody goes all overboard like we all do, us in the media as well. Oh,
he's the next Paul Skeens. He's going to be amazing.
Yeah. Oh, and if he comes out tonight, it's going to be a love fest on Locked On Brewers tomorrow. If he comes out, why did they bring him up sooner? But the pitching is not the problem with the Brewers this year. It's their offense. And I'll tell you what, the Brewers right now had to move Aaron Savale to their bullpen. And there's a report, as we've been talking here, from Ken Rosenthal from The Athletic, that Savale, he got moved to the bullpen. And Pat Murphy, the Brewers manager, said yesterday that Savale was unhappy about it. Report from Rosenthal today is that Savale wants to get traded. And I have a feeling he is going to be on the trade block anyway, because the Brewers with Misiorowski have 6, 7, maybe 8 starting pitchers they could go with. So we'll talk more about that on Friday's podcast on Locked On Brewers. A little plug ahead.
All right, there you go. Pitching matchups mentioned. Graham Misiorowski tonight. Should be a solid one. Fedde Peralta on paper looks good. Peralta obviously very, very good for the Brewers so far this year. Palante and our old friend Jose Quintana gets the ball in Saturday's matchup, and then Sunday TBD right now for the Brewers at the moment. Maybe Savale has to come in and help him out. We'll find out. But Miles Michael is set to get the ball on Sunday for the Cardinals. So there you have it. There's our preview for this big 4-game series between the Brewers and the Cardinals. We want to thank you guys for making Locked On Cardinals and Locked On Brewers first listen every day. If you haven't already, give us a follow on X. Please like, subscribe on YouTube and help our channels grow. We're also on Instagram and TikTok. So come out and find us. And thank you very much for being a part of the Locked On Podcast Network.